Hi, I'm Annie. I've been cosplaying for over 15 years, crafting for about 8 years, and competing since 2022. Since 2022, I have received 4 awards for my craftsmanship in cosplay, and I have advanced to the master's level in cosplay competitions. Today, I wanted to talk about cosplay contests and specifically what the heck craftsmanship competition is. Now, just a disclaimer, everything that I'm talking about is stuff that I have personally experienced or seen as a competitor in the Southeast USA. I'm treating this as though you who are watching know absolutely nothing about cosplay competitions. This is like literally Dummy's Guide to Cosplay Contests. Because while cosplay has very much come into like the more pop culture sphere since 2020, cosplay competing is still fairly niche within the community in of itself. So, cosplay contests. There are 3 main types, which are exhibition, performance, and craftsmanship. Exhibition contests are essentially catwalk contests. You, the cosplayer, go to the event, you sign up, and you get to walk on stage and strut your stuff as the character of your choice. You're not required to have made your own outfit, and there is no prejudging for this event, usually. Some events do still have this, but for the most part, exhibition contests are not prejudged. Winners are chosen by judges who may or may not even be cosplayers, based on how much you embrace the character, how much you give the crowd a good performance, and sometimes how much you look like the character. Performance contests are where contestants actively perform a skit or a dance on stage. The performer usually submits an audio that they will have played for them when they're on the stage. You can also provide such things like props, stage pieces, or backdrops. And then on the day of the performance, the cosplayer will go up on stage and perform their routine or their skit. Skits are usually between 1 to 2 minutes long. Some performance contests do require you to hand make your outfit, but as a whole, no matter what, performance contests judge you almost entirely on your performance on stage more than anything else. Craftsmanship cosplay contests are literally where you, the cosplayer, have to make your outfit as well as you can, and you're competing against other people who are doing the same. You're not required to build your cosplay in a specific amount of time or from a specific fandom or media. It's really just you make the cosplay whenever you can on your own time. You wear it to the convention, you sign up, you get prejudged, and then you are like all of your abilities and talents that you use to make your outfit are weighed against everyone else that also comes to compete. You are judged by professional cosplayers and then later are allowed to walk on stage for a stage walk to show off your outfit to a crowd. Now, I feel like there's some confusion, especially when it comes from people who are not cosplayers regarding cosplay contests. So I'm hoping this video clears like everything up, and then always you are more than welcome to ask questions. So craftsmanship cosplay contests have rules that vary convention to convention. So when you're thinking of like sports, football, American football, sorry, I'm one of those nerds. The rules of football are for the most part the same, no matter if you're in elementary school, high school, college, or professional. It's the same kind of rules, it's the same kind of penalties, everything like that. Unfortunately, craftsmanship cosplay contests do not have that same kind of streamlined efficiency. So every convention's different. But that being said, there are some baseline rules that exist usually across every single convention. The main ones are you must have made at least 60% or more of your cosplay. It is highly recommended that you make as much as you can because the more that you make for your costume, the more that the judges can judge you on. Again, this is craftsmanship based, so you cannot compete in a store-bought cosplay or anything that was purchased from someone else who made it. And then usually the rule of thumb is you cannot compete in a cosplay that has already won an award if it's a major award unless you heavily upgrade it and rebuild huge portions of it, or you compete at a higher level than what you won at originally. Again, every convention's a little bit different, so, if you're going and competing, please make sure to read the rules very carefully. Now, depending on the con, contestants either sign up in person or online. Contest slots are usually very limited, and they can kind of be hard to get into, especially depending on what level of contest this is. If registration's in person, people usually get there very, very early to make sure that they can sign up on time. Like, we're talking 3+ hours before signups technically begin, because it is that insane when it comes to like signing up. Online registration usually requires you to fill out an application. You answer a couple of questions about yourself and your cosplay. Usually with online registration, you are also required to either submit progress photos or something called a build book. Contestants are chosen from the applicants based on whether or not they are following the rules, if their cosplay is actually finished, etc. You can technically enter some of these contests with an unfinished cosplay, and then they will determine if they think that you'll actually be able to complete the cosplay in time to like actually go to the con in it. If you're accepted through online registration, you usually get an email with information on the date and time you need to be there and any other little details that they might have. For in-person registration, you get in line, you fill out a little piece of paperwork that just kind of answers the same kind of questions, and then sometimes the convention will ask you like in person a bunch of these kind of questions to make sure you made your costume, figure out what your rank is, double check that they're pronouncing your name correctly, and things like that. And then from there, you usually pick your judging time or day, depending on what the con is like. Some cons do have it where there's judging on 2 different days. Some cons only have it where judging's on 1 day. Now, pre-judging is where all the big decisions are being made. Cosplayers are required to be at judging very early in order to make sure that they're checked in and on time. And then when your time has come, con staff will usually come and get you and take you to the judges. Craftsmanship contests usually have 2 to 5 professional judges who are really, really good at what they do. These are people who are either like legitimate professionals who work in the industry or are people who are masterclass cosplayers. They usually have a wide variety of disciplines, materials that they're very good at so that they can make sure to kind of cover everyone that comes in and understand how people have made their outfits. You know what? Why don't I just show you what it's like? So, like, full transparency before I go into my little skit. I love y'all dearly. I am not putting on full body paint just to show y'all what a cosplay contest prejudging is like. Okay? But just so you know, when you usually go into cosplay contest prejudging, you are in your full makeup, your body paint, everything. You wear your completed cosplay, unless for some weird reason you forgot stuff. You make sure everything's looking as nice and neat as it can. You get everything pinned just right, and you go in there and you tell them absolutely everything about your build in 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm going to try and simulate that as best as I can by myself in my house. So first thing you would do, we're going to act like this is my build book. It's not, it's patterns, but we're going to act like it is. You walk in, the judges will ask you, are you so-and-so? And you say yes. And then they ask you, okay, tell us about your costume. And you give them your build book and you set that down on the table in front of them so that they can look at it, or you hand it to them directly. And then you begin telling them about your costume. All right. So most contests give you 2 to 3 minutes. Kind of across the board. Every so often you get a little bit more time, but for this purpose, I'm going to do it in 3 minutes. All right. Time starts now. My name is Yub Commander, and this is my Pirate Jester cosplay that I made using Black Solander's art of Captain Jester. Everything that you see here was made by myself with the exception of the pants that I'm wearing and the boots. And I did in fact have to like remake my belt. And I haven't done that yet, but this is one that I purchased. Everything else though, for the most part, is hand patterned by myself with materials that I or my family thrifted. So all of the lace that you see here is actually like table runners that were purchased from Goodwill. All of the fabric right here that you can see on my coat is in fact actually thrifted curtains. And then these right here with the leather bits are actually an old leather jacket. And I wanted to leave all of the really cool seam lines and stitch lines because I felt that like really helped the whole pirate aesthetic of like cobbled together. The horn patterns were purchased off Etsy, but they were like made and everything by me. And then obviously I went over them with foam clay, and then I dremeled them a ton and weathered them with acrylic paint. The red fabric that you see here is actually from the table runner that I used, and then I weathered and burned all the edges. All of the jewelry is made by myself with these glass beads because I just thought they were really cool. They are part of the design, but you know. This is entirely hand patterned as well, with pieces left over from some cotton that I had laying around, and then everything was hand stitched together. The coat and the corset itself were patterned by myself. This is multiple layers of leather with EVA foam on the inside in order to create a rigid structure, so it holds me really, really well. And then it's laced up in the back. I did not lace it up for this video. This little collar piece is entirely Warbler covered with the the lace that I purchased, and it creates a really good rigid structure so it stays really well. And then it's Warbler covering the front for the little gold things, and then more beads of the little glass ones that are hanging down. My props were entirely made by myself. Unfortunately, I only have the one that's here available because my other two, my cats got to. But I do have my candy cane sword, which is EVA foam with a PVC structure on the inside. And then I used foam clay to make the more rounded edges, fill any seams, and then plaid acrylic paints to paint and weather. And then usually about this point, once you get through everything, I'm going to pause my thing real quick. So I have 45 seconds left on my timer. Usually by this point, once you get through your whole little spiel, which I just rattled off, literally, that is how it is. I say everything as quickly as I can. You usually have one judge sitting there at the table, flipping through your build book and looking at stuff. And as you're talking, they're flipping to the pages of the pieces that you're talking about. You know it's a good con is when the judges get up, they do a full 360 walk around, but they'll ask you things like, is it okay to touch your costume? So that, you know, consent's very important. And they'll come up and they'll like look over your costume and they'll make sure that your seams look good on the inside, and they'll look up close at your paint job because your costume can look great from 6 feet away, but up close is very different. So they make sure that your paint job is clean. They make sure that it's primed really well. They make sure that paint isn't chipping, that you don't have like threads that are loose or anything like that, that you don't have stuff that's just falling apart. So from this point, in the last 45 seconds, usually what happens is that the judges ask you, okay, what about this specific thing on your costume? So I'm going to like emulate that. All right, so usually at this point, a judge would be looking at this and go, oh, I see that you did like a double rolled hem. And I'd be like, yes, I made my own bias tape using the actual material that I had originally purchased so that I could have a rolled hem. It is double lined of the same fabric so that I could have that really nice, pretty texture on both sides. And then I used some sort of like foam stuff that I found. It's not EVA foam up here to create this rigid structure so that this flops over without just like flopping down, something like that. And then they might ask me something in particular about like, so how did you attach the horns to your headpiece? And I'd be like, oh, and sometimes you would take this off and hand it to the judges and you would say, so it's entirely hot glued on to just a regular old thing here. I can just slip it on my head like so. And it just easily sits down on my head. Now I will state for this costume, when I have the wig on, this sits a lot better because it like provides extra cushion, but for now it just looks a little weird. But yeah, that's basically it. It's rapid fire telling them what you made and how you made it, with them usually asking questions, or sometimes they don't ask questions and they just kind of look over you. And that might not be because your costume's bad. It might just legitimately be that they don't know the questions to ask, or maybe you actually did a really great job in like covering everything that you wanted to talk about. So that's why it's really important to have a build book so that you can hand them the build book, because the build book stays with the judges when you leave. And that way they can continue to look through it afterwards and see if maybe there was something that they missed and you answer it in your build book. But usually what I do is that if I get to the end and I can kind of tell that it's like, all right, no one's saying anything, I will initiate and be like, do you have any specific questions about me? Is there anything that you would like to see up close? And usually that helps facilitate a little bit more conversation and like the last little bit that you have. But yeah, I'm getting out of this. This is really warm. Oh, and there's one last thing I wanted to say real quick before I get fully changed and comfortable. It's okay if you mess up during prejudging and you either forget stuff or you skip on words or you say something that's incorrect. Like, it sucks, but that's why it's really good, again, to have a build book so that like hopefully all your information's in there, but also like it happens. We're human. They know that you're under a lot of pressure, not just like if you suffer from anxiety or anything like that. It's already a scary experience, but you're having to rapid fire detail everything that you've done, which could be months and years of work in like 3 minutes. And they know that you're not going to get to everything, and they know that you're going to say stuff incorrectly, and that's okay. So please don't stress. Okay? There's some of y'all I'm looking at specifically. You know, it's actually really funny. I just realized, having put up the entire costume as I'm cleaning this room, I didn't even mention that I 3D designed portions of that costume. So again, as you saw, I had 3 minutes to talk, and it could have been that the judges asked that kind of a question, like near the end or maybe during the judging portion. But if that never got brought up, I would have had that in my build book, and they would have seen, oh, Yub Yub Commander 3D designed and printed and like made all these additional little accessories that are like a lot harder to see because they're tiny, like the earrings and the traveler sigil that like goes on the hip. But it's like, again, that's why you make a build book. Anyway, more on that later. Contestants are usually encouraged to bring what is known as a build book. And essentially this just lets the judges look back over your entry and make sure that they have all the notes that they need in order to make the final decisions. Just so you know, I do plan on making a build book video that's explaining what a build book is and potentially how to make your own build book in a couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. Once a cosplayer's prejudging is done, they can relax, get some snacks, get that photo shoot done, run around, do whatever they want until the cosplay contest happens. Now, contestants are required to be at the cosplay contest about an hour before the actual stage walks begin. We're required to check in and make sure that we're all there. We get in our appropriate line order, and then we all head backstage to stand and wait for anywhere between 2 to 4 hours for our chance to walk on stage, show off, and maybe even get a little award. Now for context, because this is where I think people get really confused. What is listed on a convention schedule as the cosplay contest is not technically the contest. Essentially, what you see labeled as the cosplay contest is the end of the actual competition. By the time we get to the stage walks, all the winners have already been chosen. None of us know, but all the judges and the con staff know. And then unless someone does something really crazy and gets themselves like fully disqualified, and that could be anything from like actively being on stage and doing something that gets themselves disqualified, doing something around the con that gets them banned from the con. It's pretty rare that that happens, but every so often something occurs, and usually the judges have to scramble at that point and reassess like the whole hierarchy of like who gets the awards and stuff, and that can make it really difficult. But for the most part, that's a pretty rare occurrence. So usually by the time prejudging is done, judges know 100% who's going to win after they've had their chance to deliberate afterwards. So by the time you see the stage walks and then we get to the end of the show, there's no like actual deliberation happening backstage. The judges just already know. So we go backstage, we get to hang out. This is where you get to meet all the cool new people that maybe you've never met before. You get to hang out with friends you haven't seen in a while. It's a great way to make really good connections of either new friends or crafters that you can pick their brains later on and be like, how'd you make that? What techniques did you use? What paints are you recommending? It's really fun. It's really, really fun. But the downside is that we are standing for a very long time. We get to the end, and honestly, most of us are pretty grumpy. We want snacks, we want to take off our wigs, we want to take off our shoes, and we want to go lay on the floor somewhere and not have anyone talk to us. It's very overstimulating to be in a very large cosplay for a long time, and also depending on what you're wearing, you might just like hurt a lot because it's painful. We do this for love because we love these characters and the outfits, but like also it's a little masochistic, I'm not gonna lie. Now, stage walks are really usually hectic for us, even at like the most well-run competition, because it's just fast paced. And a lot of us cannot move very quickly. Instructions are usually given from some con staff, and it goes down the line, and everyone passes the information down about how we walk on stage, where the posing spots are, and where we get off the stage. And then from there, the stage walk starts. If we're lucky, a convention will have a ramp going onto stage, but unfortunately, that's not super common. And so we have to deal with stairs. And when I tell you stairs are the greatest enemy of cosplayers, we fall a lot. Stage walks are usually encouraged to be no longer than 30 seconds per person or group. You go up on stage, there could be like a single spot or up to 3 spots that you're required to pose at. You do your poses, pause enough for the cameras and everyone else to see you really, really well, and then you walk off the stage. Usually announcers read off your given name, the character name, and the series that you're from to kind of let everyone know who you are and what you're cosplaying from before you get up on the stage. Sometimes the con does actually provide seating for us after we get off the stage. Sometimes they don't. It really just depends con to con and if they have the space. Sometimes I've had it where they just give us like a spot on the floor and they're like, y'all can go stand or sit over there, whatever makes you happy. Sometimes there are chairs, but like if you're in a big armor or a really big ball gown or something, you usually can't sit down anyway. Once the stage walks are done, usually the announcer thanks everyone for their hard work, and then the judges go backstage to deliberate, depending on the con. Sometimes they actually just pull the judges straight up onto the stage and they're like, all right, time for awards. But other times, if they go backstage to deliberate, again, air quotes, they'll have like a little halftime show. Sometimes it's the announcer pulling the audience on stage to participate in like games or a little mini walk-on contest where like no one wins, but it just gives people an excuse to like get up on stage and show off their costumes if maybe they're like a little skittish about doing the whole craftsmanship stuff. Other times you'll have like actual performers come out and do like a performance, which is kind of cool. But after that, the judges come out and they start announcing awards. Now here in the US, we have a ranking system that essentially allows us all to showcase our level of skill. It's not perfect, but it does really help make sure that like absolute like brand new newbie cosplayers are not competing in the same contest in like the same category as someone who's been doing this for 20 years. Because like that's not fair. Let's be honest. So the rankings are novices, newbies, journeymen, which are usually 1 to 3 awards. These are people who have like a good foundational skill underneath their belt and are working on improving their techniques or adding new techniques like to their repertoire. And then you have masters. It's scary here. Someone help. I don't want to be here anymore. Masters are usually 3 to 5 or more placing awards. And these are people who are like incredible at what they're doing. Like these are the people that you're seeing usually that are like hand making their own shoes, hand ventilating like all their own wigs, sometimes even like hand making animatronics and everything that like function fully or have like LEDs that light up their entire costume. That's not to say that journeyman and novice don't do that, but it's not quite as normal as like master's level. Awards are given out to each ranking. Usually there's either a first, second, third place of each one, or there's just like a best of, and then usually there's like an honorable mention or a judge's choice award. Judge's choice awards are given out by each judge to a specific person, like 1 per judge per person. And then of course Best in Show. Of course, variation depending on the con. Now, Judges' Choice Awards and Honorable Mentions are really interesting awards because they don't actually account for any part of your ranking. But that being said, I've heard a lot of people say that like the Judges' Choice Awards kind of mean more to them than like a ranked award. Essentially, a Judges' Choice Award is kind of like a bonus prize of a judge singling you out and saying this person really blew me away with like something specifically that they did with their costume. So while you might not have made a costume that was like on the level to be able to win a best of category award, you made a costume that made a judge go, wow, that's really amazing. And considering a lot of the judges are people that we look up to a lot, or potentially our peers or friends, it means a lot when that person singles you out and like really kind of like speaks your praises on stage about what they think you did really incredibly well. Group or duo awards are awards for people who competed with 2 or more people in their group. There's usually only like 1 or 2 either trophy, medal, or certificate that is awarded with this, despite that like you could have a group of 14 people get up on stage and win this. But it's an award that honors the work that the entire group put into their cosplays, which could have been done either individually one-on-one, or every single person worked on the thing that they were really strong at and then passed the costume off to the next person in the group to work on the skill that they were really good at. And then Best in Show is exactly what it sounds like. This is the person that walked in and the judges were just blown away. Usually it's a masterclass cosplayer, but that's not always the case. There have been times where journeyman or novice level cosplayers have come in with a build that legitimately blew judges away. Now, one interesting thing that happens when that occurs is that if it is a novice or a journeyman person who wins Best in Show, it means that they are automatically bumped up to masters going forward. Now, you might get lucky with a trophy. You might win a medal. I personally really like medals because it's easier to carry around. You might get a paper certificate, or you might not get anything at all other than a pat on the back and a video of your stage walk. If you win a ranked award, such as a Best of Category award, your costume is retired from competing on basically every level with very few exceptions. The exceptions are that you remake over 60% of your outfit, so it is technically considered an entirely new outfit. You compete with that costume at a higher level than you were before, or you go on to international qualifier competitions. That's if they even let you. Again, this varies con to con, so make sure you're just reading the rules. Again, this does not mean stop wearing your costume. For the love of everything, rewear your costumes. Go flaunt them. Make it everyone else's problem that you want to wear the same outfit 40 times within a year. You worked your butt off on that. Do it. I had a few people in my sandbagging video mention that they're a little bit confused about this specific rule and why you're not allowed to recompete with a costume that's already won when you have stuff like art pieces and movies that can win multiple awards. And there's kind of like 2 things that go along with this. The thing with craftsmanship contests is that you would have to be insanely lucky to take a build that you win in either a novice or a journeyman award and be able to win again in journeyman or masters. The level of skill that's required in the next like division goes up, and the amount of mistakes that you're allowed to make really starts going down. Novice has a lot of wiggle room because it's, you know, you're assumed to be like a newbie cosplayer when it comes to crafting and stuff. There's a lot more wiggle room when it comes to like mistakes. Journeyman gets really gnarly because the amount of like range that's within that category alone makes it so difficult, let alone if you get to masters, like, oh my God, then you have to compete at a masters level. I'm terrified. I really am. The other thing is, when it comes to sandbagging, is that it's just kind of considered like poor sportsmanship to recompete with a costume that's already won if you don't go up to a higher level, or you don't go to an international level, or you don't remake a huge portion of your costume. I will also specify, and I don't think I did this in my sandbagging video, most of the people who are chronic sandbaggers, these are the people who actively have like multiple awards in the same costume, unfortunately are just not sportsmanlike people to begin with. I hate to say, but usually these people that do this kind of stuff, and it's the reason why sandbagging has such a bad name in the community to begin with, is that the people who do this for the most part go to very small conventions, and they're competing against children and absolute newbies with novice or upper journeyman level builds, and they know that they're going to these things and can automatically beat everyone, and they're doing it just to get awards so that they can essentially like slide their way into getting good opportunities with either judging or guesting later on. And it's just kind of icky because it's like you're not actually putting your costume into a contest. You're stealing candy kind of from a baby with that. And the award in a lot of ways loses meaning because it's like you didn't get that award based on the merit of your build because no one there could have possibly competed against you. So you didn't have a competition. You just beat a bunch of children. Anyway, that's a rant. If you want to hear more about sandbagging and stuff, please make sure to check out my video that's all about that. I talk a lot more about it because it's the whole topic. Now, For future things, you can get feedback from judges after a contest if you win or didn't win to ask them how you need to improve different skills or parts of your costume later on. Most judges are pretty good about getting back to you on this, and even if they aren't, hopefully you've made some friends while in the line for the cosplay contest, and you can potentially talk to those people about like different ways to improve your cosplays going forward. Many cosplayers post really great tutorials on YouTube or other sites that are really good to be able to watch, and it's usually free for you to be able to do it so that you can like learn new skills and better elevate your builds. You can always up your game by learning something new. Craftsmanship cosplay contests are art contests. It's where we, the artists, get to walk on stage and show off all the work that we put into our costume. Contests don't bring fame or money, but a lot of people do use contests as a way to push themselves so that they can become better crafters, either for professional reasons or personal reasons. Some people actively use contests in order to push themselves to a level that they could potentially then become a professional cosplayer or crafter. Just keep in mind, everyone that is on that stage, no matter their skill level, have taken anywhere between months to years to build the thing that you are seeing them walk around in. They have the guts to get up on stage in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people and show off something that is very personal to themselves, because art is intrinsically personal. Let me tell you, it can be really scary and very like nerve-wracking to get up on stage, especially if there's like any kind of like costume or prop failure. It just eats you alive. Cosplay is a passion that we pour our heart into, and I think it's really cool that we as crafters get to showcase our passion for others to see. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, as always, please leave them down below in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.